Hello and welcome to class number 34. I did not write on the top of my paper, but we do of course still have a live class every Thursday from 5:30 to 6:30 at present. Alright, we're going to start with our box, whatever size you like, or whatever shape, of course. Just like that. And then in any direction, doesn't matter if you're the same as me or whatever, you're going to do some very gentle wavy lines that are maybe about a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 3/4 inch, whatever spacing you want apart. They should all run in the same direction, but they can be various different wavelengths. It doesn't matter about that. Just like that. So now I'm going to just pick any section, and I'm going to do these little arched lines that go across. I'm going to kind of evenly space it, I guess. It doesn't really matter about that either, but mine just tend to be a little bit more evenly spaced. These lines that go across the section should be slightly arched. And now I'm going to draw an L shape inside of each one. So I'm going to come down and go over, and there should be 2 of those in each section. So down and over, they should not touch any of the other lines. You're just going to double up the L shape there. Come down and go over and all the way. So the lines, the only place that they touch is when you start and when you end. Of course, when you have these kind of odd-shaped ones, you have to decide if you have any visible parts of that. Like this top one will just have a couple lines here, so nothing there. So then in the large section, to the right of the L's, I'm going to color that in. So it's basically just coloring the background. If you wish to use a different color, of course you can. You can draw all of the L's in every section before you color them in, but I wanted to show you what it's look like so that I can stop talking and we can just listen to the music in just a minute. So I tend to use a marker when I do color in. Obviously the Sharpie is just for the sake of simplicity. I wouldn't recommend using Sharpies if you have regular paper. If you're actually Zendoodling for real or for more serious, I don't know, meditation, I would get some actual like illustration paper or regular artist markers. Because the Sharpie actually, this is just regular printer paper. The Sharpie will bleed through it, so you can see me occasionally picking up my paper here, and that's to make sure that my paper isn't sticking to the wood table underneath, which it has done in the past. So that's what that's about. So something just like that, that's all you need. So now I'm going to actually take this larger section here, and I'm going to divide it into 2 smaller sections. This is just to show you that you can vary the width of the rows or the columns, whichever direction yours are going. So I'm just going to do the exact same thing though. So these lines are a little bit closer together, and as I'm drawing my lines, I just don't want it to line up exactly with the L shapes from the previous section. So I'm kind of jumping a little bit or moving up a little bit or down a little bit, depending on where I need to, so they don't completely line up with the L shapes from the neighboring sections. So we'll see what that is. So we're just going to keep going through the entire section and enjoy the music. Alright, so that's the end of that. So again, you can make these as large or small as you'd like. You can tell what it's going to look like if you use the smaller ones, so it's up to you to decide what shape or size section works for your design. So I'm going to draw something over on the right. It's going to be a link of ovals. So I'm just going to come out a little bit to the right of my original box, and I'm going to kind of curve them underneath the box. So I have, well, I'm doing 6. You can do whatever size you want, or whatever quantity you want. And inside of each of the ovals, I'm going to draw a spiral. So it should be a full oval with a spiral on the inside. In the very center of the spiral, I'm just going to color it in a little bit thicker. So it kind of creates like this oblong dot, so to speak. And just like that. And these shouldn't touch the sides, of course. It's just a spiral on the inside of that loop. Or, excuse me, of that oval, excuse me. So just like that. Okay, so now I have mine curved. Yours might be straight. I'm going to draw my lines right off the corners where the ovals link. I'm going to draw the lines back towards my original box here. And they're wider on the outside by the oval and get skinnier as they go towards the box next to it. They don't touch there either, but they do get skinnier. So it should kind of look like a bunch of rolled paper or some tubes coming out of the side of my design here. So now on the back side of the tubes, you can decorate these however you wish. You can leave them plain. It's up to you. I'm going to draw these little circles that look like flute holes or like little musician holes so that you can play this thing. They're just holes with a little bit of a shadow line in it, and once I move my hand, you'll be able to see them, I'm sure. I don't know what it looks like on the video right now, but it's just a hole with a little white line to make it look 3D, so something like that. Maybe I'll jump over here a couple and do that same thing again, just to add kind of a repeating pattern so it doesn't look so weird or random. You just have it on one. Again, you can do anything. You could do stripes, you could do colors, you could actually do flute pieces, you could, I don't know, whatever you want to do on here. You can make triangles, tribal patterns, or whatever. Just going to do 2 of these, I think. Alright, so something just like that. And now these other ones, I'm going to do kind of like a birch look. So I'm just going to kind of do these little, and they're semi-arched, because these are supposed to be sort of like 3D rounded shapes. I'm going to do kind of these little tick marks that look like a birch tree. So if you think about like birch bark, they don't really line up. They're just really random dark lines, or darker lines. Some short, some long, some go all the way across, some don't. Kind of come from one side a little bit and then come from the other side. However you want to do it, it's entirely up to you. So I think I'm actually going to do that pattern on the other couple as well. But again, you can decorate yours however you wish. You could leave them plain if you want. Alright, so something just like that. I think it looks kind of fun. So now I'm going to grab my pencil and add a little bit of detail, shading detail along in between each of these little tubes. So I'm just doing a darker line, a darker shadow right on the line. And then slightly up, left or right from that, I'm just going to kind of fade my pencil lines a little bit so it lightens up, and it will make it look more like a 3D object. So I'm going to do that on all the tubes, and as well as on the outside edges of the last two. So you'll be able to see that hopefully. Alright, so now here right along the box, I'm actually going to add some shadow lines as well. So it makes it look like they're going directly behind the box, because the box would create a shadow as well. So the shadow is actually on the tube itself, and I'm just going to make it a little bit darker right along the box line there. So then I'll get these outside pieces, and then we'll go on to the next one. So something just like that. I think it looks awesome, especially once you add that shading. So now I'm going to show you how you can incorporate this into your design. We're going to draw the other box, but we're going to kind of tuck it right under this one. So it's going to come right off of that. And then it's going to go over just a little bit past the tubes and come up. So it should kind of just be like it's tucked right underneath there. Again, you can use whatever shape. It doesn't have to be a box. So you're going to use a pencil, and you're going to lightly draw some double sets of lines in any direction. Mine just happened to be horizontal and vertical. You're going to basically create a grid, and you want to use double sets of lines that are relatively close together that don't touch each other. I know it might be kind of hard to see with the pencil, but you get the idea. So I actually have, because I didn't make my box straight, I have this one little section down here that's going to have some lines in it. So I'm going to turn my paper and do the exact same thing, going the other direction. Again, if you start horizontal, you'll want to go vertical with these. If you did not, you'd want it a diagonal, just go the opposite direction. So something just, we have one little section right here. You won't really see it. You might not have little pieces like that, but something just like it. So now I'm going to grab my pen, and at the intersection of each of the lines, the double sets of lines, I'm going to draw an oval. And it should have kind of a little white shadow line. So I'm going to draw one bigger over here. It's just an oval. And you're going to kind of create like a little crescent moon on one of the sides. Mine just happens to be the top left. And then you fill in the rest of it. So it creates kind of that glare line, that white light line. You don't have to do that step, but it makes it look a little bit more interesting when you add that in there. So the ovals that I'm drawing, I don't know how well you can see it on the video, but the ovals I'm drawing are slightly wider and slightly taller than the size of my lines. So this dot should completely cover the intersection of both sets of lines. Alright, so I have a couple little ones here on the side. You might not have those. They're kind of just tucked down here. You only see part of it. So it depends on what shape you made your box. You may or may not have those. So now I'm going to go over and I'm going to trace all the horizontal lines and the vertical lines, or whichever way you drew yours. You're going to just basically trace the outside lines there. And if you had any that kind of got a little wide, like my second one here is a little bit wide over on the end, I'm actually going to adjust for that so that it looks like my center oval should be thicker than my lines. I'm just going to draw right over the top of it. Alright, that looks really great. Alright, so now the next step, this is the part where you have a little bit of leeway. You can do whatever it is you like. It's going to be a quad design, so you need 4 boxes in order to do this. Starting at the center or around one of these colored dots, I'm going to do some arched lines. Now there's several ways you can do this. I'm just doing arched lines so it makes like a quarter circle in this section here. And they start and stop when I hit the line, so they don't go beyond that section. So now I'm going to turn my paper, and in the very next one, I'm going to do another quad design, but they're going to, or quad circle design, but they should line up a little bit with the ones in the previous box. So it should look like basically like these circles go behind the grid that you drew. It is pretty cumbersome, and sometimes my my arches are not very well arched or even accurate as far as lining up, but as long as you get an approximate number similar to what's in the other boxes, it will look just fine. So I do encourage you to take your time when you're drawing your circles and actually turn the box. So this is how you can do it one way, where you do one box at a time and just try to get them to line up as best you can, and I'll show you another way in just a second. Alright, so that's what I mean by a quad design. It takes 4 boxes to make a design. So now on the bottom here, I'm going to show you another one where you can draw a line, and you can actually go all the way around the circle. And then you do that again. So each arch line, you're just going to basically draw it and jump over the horizontal and vertical lines. I find this way to be a little bit more difficult because there's some directions that I cannot draw an arched line well. Like when I'm going away from my body, for some reason I can't get the arch to look very nice. So for me it's easier to turn the paper, but again, you can do whatever works best for you. So you're going to do a quad design in each of the quads that you have. Some of the edge ones, you're going to see that you're only going to see portions of that. You can use a pencil there and trace over it if you're not exactly sure how to line it up, but just think of a box of one section or one design needs 4 boxes. So even if you don't have full boxes, you'll still use the 4th box as that part of the design. Alright, so that's the end of my circular design section. So now I'm going to use my pencil and I'm going to go over and I'm just going to erase any of the horizontal or vertical lines that I don't need. Just be sure that you don't erase the lovely shading that you did on the tubes like I just did. So I'm going to just put that back on there quickly. Alright. Good. Alright, so now you're going to use your pencil and you can add shading. This part is optional, but it does help with the design a little bit, makes it look a little bit more 3D, of course. So right on the underside of each of the horizontal lines, I'm going to put a thicker line. There isn't a lot of feathering that happens with this because it's more like a hard shadow line. So it's just going to be under each one as I go across here. So you can decide what, how hard you want to push on that, how much shadowing you want to add, what looks good to you. It's up to you. Alright, so now I'm going to turn my paper, and I'm actually going to do the left side, on the left side of the vertical lines as well. You're not going to do both sides, because the light would only come from one direction. If you kind of think of like if the sun was shining down on it, it would only create a shadow on one side, most likely not both. So I am going to just pick the left side of all of my vertical lines and do the exact same thing, just a kind of a hard shadow line there on all of those. Alright, so now that I have all of those done, what I'm going to do on the outside of the tube is I'm going to add a thicker, a little bit darker shadow line right here, so it looks like it's creating a larger shadow and is raised up above the box that I have below. So it should look like the bottom box is below the tubes, which it is. It looks like it's behind it. And then the top box, the first one that we did, is above it. So you could actually put a shadow line under the first box as well to kind of separate the two boxes, but it's up to you. So you just want to add some good shadow lines there to help with that 3D look. So I hope you enjoyed the patterns for today. I hope that you are feeling calm and more relaxed. If you do wish to join us in the library, it's every Thursday from 5:30 to 6:30. You do need to register, and you simply have to call the library to get your name on the list. So I hope that you have a very wonderful day, and stay safe.